listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Monday, July the 22nd. I'm your host, Michael Leva, flying solo today as we have a lot to talk about in the world of the Miami Dolphins. But before we get to that, as always, this show is brought to you by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? Don't worry. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home. And yes, they will ship internationally as well. So if you don't live in the United States, they will ship to you. Caneswear is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com. Also, before we start, a big shout out to everyone listening at FinHeaven.com. Everyone go to FinHeaven.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. And a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, Google Play, Podchaser, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. We're going to have shows pretty much each and every day of the week now that training camp has started. You're not going to want to miss an episode. I know people work all day. They're busy. You want to hear what happened that day in practice with the Dolphins. You're going to want to be subscribed to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network because we will have a show each day giving you the rundown of who's looking good, who's not looking good each day in practice. So you won't want to miss an episode. And before I start, thank you. As always, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to spend with us here at DolphinsTalk.com and our podcast network. I know there are a zillion podcast options these days, not just with the Miami Dolphins, but with politics, true crime, the NBA, the Olympics, Major League Baseball, whatever, movies, television. There's a podcast on it. So the fact that you spend a few minutes of your time each and every day with us here at the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network, it doesn't go unnoticed. We are very much grateful. Without you, there would be no us. And thank you. Okay, story number one, which Tom and myself spoke about on Sunday night. We told you when Shaq Barrett retired, the Dolphins would be in the market for an edge rusher or two maybe. And on Monday, they worked out two of the names we speculated about on Sunday night, Emmanuel Ogbah and Yannick Ngakoue. I believe I said that right. They were both in on Monday, and at the time I'm recording this at 6:44 p.m. on Monday evening, neither one of them is signed. Now, maybe by the time most of you are listening to this, maybe by the time this podcast is over, one of them or maybe both of them would have signed with the Dolphins, but as of the time I'm speaking right now, neither one is signed. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm for signing them both. I think they need help with this edge rusher really, really bad. There's a lot going on here at edge rusher, and I think the Dolphins really should consider signing them both. I know there's salary cap limitations and all that, but just a brief rundown on both. For Yannick Ngakoue, 69 career sacks, past 3 seasons. I'm not going to go back to all the way when he was drafted. Past 3 seasons for 3 different teams. 2021, started and played in all 17 games for the Raiders, had 10 sacks. Then for the Colts in 2022, 15 games, he had 9.5 sacks. And last season with the Bears, he played in 13 games, had 4 sacks. Again, for what it's going to cost to bring him in, if we get 4 sacks or 5 sacks, great. If we get more, even better. Sign me up. I will take that. And for Ogbah, who we obviously all know a little bit better, in 2020, 2021 with the Dolphins, back-to-back 9-sack seasons. 2022, he was hurt a little bit. And then last year, think he had 5.5 sacks last year with the Dolphins. Yet 5.5 sacks under the Vic Fangio scheme, but he was never a scheme fit for Vic Fangio. So in fact, he's still 5.5 sacks. It's kind of impressive. And again, here's the deal. The Miami Dolphins do not know when Bradley Chubb will come back. Odds are it's going to be early November, late October, best case. And when he comes back, is he going to be the same guy prior to the injury? Don't know. Jaylen Phillips probably back a little sooner, maybe even week 1, although that seems unrealistic. I still think late September, first part of October. But even if it is week 1, okay, is he going to be the same guy he was prior to the injury? Probably not. And, I know there's Chop Robinson. I know there's Mohamed Kamara. But we hope they're the real deal. Hope's a big word. When we drafted Charles Harrison round 1 in 2017, we all thought and hoped he was the real deal. He was a bust. I'm not saying Chop Robinson will be a bust, but he may be a bust. We don't know. Hope, hope, hope. You can't bank on hope. And right now, you got the Dolphins going in to the first part of the season. Let's play the game. Jaylen Phillips is back week 1. Let's just assume it. I don't think he is, but let's say he is. Okay, he's back week 1. Who else you got? You got a couple rookies that you don't know if they're real NFL players yet. And how are you going to generate a pass rush the first 4 to 6 weeks of this year, roughly? The Shaq, his retirement here on Saturday might be a blessing in disguise for Miami, because I think it'll put a spotlight on the risk that they were going into this training camp with their edge rushers. I think you signed 2 of these guys. And, again, it's not that Shaq Barrett was the modern day Lawrence Taylor or a modern day Derek Thomas and is just like some unblockable beast. But he had a pretty good resume, and he, someone you could feel is going to be a competent pass rusher. And you hope at least one of the rookies would play well. With Shaq Barrett gone, Chubb out for at least half the season, Jaylen Phillips, you don't really know when. I'd sign 2. Now, maybe not these 2, because they might be a little too pricey to sign them both. I think I think these guys are going to want like a halfway decent contract here. Probably the same contract Shaq Barrett got. So maybe they only sign one of these guys, or maybe you sign one of these guys and then sign a lesser name edge rusher in a week or so. I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe you sign one now, see how the first week or 2 of training camp goes. And if the rookies aren't showing you much, or you still have some nerves of concern, you circle back, sign the other, or you go sign someone else. Then maybe then you bring in like a Melvin Ingram, who might be a little bit cheaper than either one. I don't know, but I think probably by the time most of you are listening to this, they'll sign one of these guys, because I think they got to have one by Wednesday just to hold a practice. And I hope they sign both. Honestly, between the 2, when we went over the names on Sunday night, Tom and myself, these are the guys at the top of my list. Ngakwe's top of my list is because I think he's probably the most productive one. But I'm okay with Agba too, because I actually, as I said Sunday night, he wasn't a scheme fit for Vic Fangio. I think for Anthony Weaver, he probably is a lot more of a scheme fit. So I'm okay with either one. I'd be great with both. I just think if the goal is to win the AFC East, make the playoffs, win playoff games, then get both. Like, why mess around? I don't think it's going to cost that much money. I think they have not that they have a ton of salary cap space, and now they're getting back the money from Shaq Barrett on the cap. I think there's enough money to sign both, or at least find a way to finagle 2 veteran edge rushers on this team. And then you got the rookies, and then take it from there and just wait and see when Chubb comes back, when Jaylen comes back. I just think you need to put a competent pass rush on the field for the first month of the year, especially if Jaylen Phillips isn't there. That's kind of where I am with this. Again, we'll see what happens here. Or maybe they'll bring in some more guys to work out on Tuesday. I don't know. If they can't get the money to work with these guys, who knows? But yeah, that's the latest here with the pass rush. And again, I know probably by the time some of you are listening to this might be outdated, and I hate to do that. But let me check Twitter. Let me check Twitter real quick here. Make sure nobody's signed since I started this conversation. Nope, they haven't. Okay, let's move on to the second topic then, which is Tua. Because there was some news on Monday regarding Jordan Love that might affect Tua. And, as I said Sunday night, God, has Miami fumbled the situation with Tua. I think this is, say what you want about Grier. He's been here forever. He's been the general manager. Whenever you want to start the clock on that, I think he looks really bad here in this situation. Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show on Monday said that Miami and Tua are not as far along as Jordan Love and the Packers, which is big. Here's why. Because today on Monday, Jordan Love, per his agents, called the Packers and told them he's going to show up for training camp, but he is not going to practice. He will only sit in on meetings, and he will not step on the practice field. That means no 7-on-7 drills, no 11-on-11 drills. He's just going to sit on the sideline and watch, and he'll sit in the meetings. But this is not a huge issue for the Packers. Why, you ask? Because there's also reporting from these same guys, the Jeremy Fowlers, Adam Schefters, Ian Rappaport's of the world, saying that the Packers are about to seal a big money deal with Love in the next day or 2 or 3. So what's Love going to miss? Like 1 practice, maybe 2. And they are more than happy to break the bank for him, and they want to give him a deal, which will be at like the top of the market. And they are very close to a deal, and they're all holding hands, singing Kumbaya. So, Love said this just in case this takes a little longer, or in case it takes a little bit longer to work through the fine print. But the Packers and Jordan Love are going to have a new big money deal within the next handful of days. Here's where it gets interesting with Tua, though. Jordan Love and his agents who called the Packers today and said he will not practice are his agency who represent him is the same agency that represents Tua, Athletes First. Now, it's not the same agent. Athletes First is the agency, and there's a bunch of agents under them who work for Athletes First. Jordan Love has one agent, Tua has another, but it's all under Athletes First. So if Athletes First told Jordan Love and the Packers he ain't going to practice until he gets a new deal, wouldn't it be common sense to think Athletes First is going to tell the Dolphins Tua is not going to practice until he gets a new deal? Now, that's not set in stone. That doesn't mean that each situation is exactly the same, because as we've said, Jordan Love and the Packers want to pay him. They want to break the bank for him. They want to make him the highest paid quarterback. They're close on a deal. They're talking. They're working out the final points here. And we know the Dolphins and Tua are not, from all the reporting. So Tua and the agent might be like, look, it's not the same type of situation. They're probably not going to pay you this offseason maybe. So you might as well show up in practice, because you're not going to get paid this week, next week, August, or anytime this year. So he might practice. But if the agency here, Athletes First, wants to play hardball, it's common sense to think it's a possibility either tomorrow or Wednesday, when the Dolphins have their first practice on the field, which is Wednesday, they might call up the Dolphins and say, yeah, he's not practicing until you give him a new deal. That might happen because, again, same agency that represents Jordan Love, and that's what happened today with Jordan Love and the Packers. So, and we've heard from in the past week alone, from today with Adam Schefter on Pat McAfee, Jeremy Fowler on SportsCenter over the weekend, Jeff Darlington the past couple of weeks on ESPN NFL Live, all report the same thing, that the Dolphins and Tua aren't close. They're not close on a deal. So it's not like the Packers situation with Love. So unless there's a last-minute change and Chris Grier and Mr. Ross gives Tua what he wants in the next 48 hours or so, which is a long-term deal that's market, something like Lawrence or something like what Love is going to sign here in the next 1 or 2 days, there's a chance Tua won't be practicing on the field Wednesday when the Dolphins hit the field for their first training camp practice. And Mike White will be getting all the first team work. There's a chance. Not saying it's 100%. I don't have a crystal ball. But again, Athletes First just told the Packers this. Athletes First represents Tua. You don't need to be Scooby-Doo to sort of tie this all together. And if Tua does practice, though, say it's not the same situation as the Packers and Love. Tua's going to show up in practice. To me, with all the reporting that they're not close on a deal, it might be a sign that the Miami Dolphins that they won't resolve this contract issue with Tua this offseason. Like not now, not anytime in August. And they're going to let Tua play out his fifth-year option. And then after the season, they will either move on from him put the franchise tag on him, or give him a long-term extension then. Those would be the three options. I don't know. And a long-term deal a year from now is going to cost way, way more than it would be if they did it today. So which is why I keep saying this is why Chris Grier has fumbled this greatly. So if, let's just say hypothetically, Tua, leads Miami to the AFC East Championship. Say they win one playoff game. Let's just be reasonable about this. They win one playoff game. Tua next offseason is going to be, well, who's the highest paid quarterback in the league? Yeah, I want that and more. Now, say he has a poor season. Or say he has the same season he had last year. Okay. And they're like the 6th or 7th seed as a wild card. They lose in round 1. Guess what Tua's going to say next offseason? Well, I've had 2 solid seasons in a row. I know the team hasn't won. Yeah, I want to be the highest paid quarterback in the league still. And if you don't want to pay me last year, sorry, I want to get paid it now. So I think the Dolphins, it's lose-lose. And again, as I said Sunday night, I stand by it. If the Dolphins give Tua Tagovailoa a new contract in the next 10 minutes, by Wednesday, by the end of the week, any point in August, do not give Chris Grier credit. He's already fumbled the situation. This should have been prioritized and done back in January, February, March, April, May. Because if you do it then, before Jared Goff signed, before Trevor Lawrence signed, before Jordan Love's about to sign, the market was much less. They could have been ahead of the curve and gotten him for probably the contract that Jared Goff got, or something less than that, or something less than what Lawrence got. But every time they wait and every time someone else signs, the price tag goes up and up and up. So I don't care if Chris Grier signs him tonight. I'm not giving him credit because he's fumbled this, and they're going to end up paying more for Tua than they needed to if they would have just got off their asses and done this in the winter. And next year, if Javon Holland's not here because they don't have cap space, look back at this moment in time. If in 2 years they can't afford to pay Jaylen Phillips after he plays out his 5th-year option, look back at this moment in time. That's if they still have Tua Tagovailoa because, they waited too long to pay him and he takes up so much of the cap. And again, using the franchise tag on him, oh my God. Next year's cap situation isn't great. Put a hard 43, 44, whatever the cap number is going to be on it, and they're going to have to cut the roster. They're going to have to cut a bunch of guys just to get to the cap. And oh yeah, when it comes to signing any free agents in March, they're not going to have any money too because they're going to have to cut a bunch of guys just to get to the cap. They have fumbled this situation up royally. If they signed him tonight, signed him tomorrow, signed him this week, gave him a deal like Trevor Lawrence, you're making, lemonade out of lemons and making the best of a bad situation. Just do it. And I say, well, okay, it's better than waiting or it could cost them more, but it doesn't appear that's going to happen. And that's where all the frustration comes from. And again, I'm not even the biggest fan of Tua. I think he's okay. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. I think he's like 12, 13, 14, 15 quarterback if you're ranking them all in the league. But those guys can win. You put enough weapons around them. You have a smart head coach, and you build up a solid defense. You can win playoff games. You can win a Super Bowl with a guy like that in a given season. So that's why it's like, and plus we've gone down the road with him this much. We fired the last head coach because he couldn't get along with him, and he didn't want him. Just sort of cut bait on him now makes no sense from an organizational standpoint. Just give him a 5-year deal, which most likely after 3 years you can move on from him then, and then that's it. I mean, what's so hard? Every team sort of figured this out. Miami hasn't figured it out yet, and they're dragging their feet. And now when Jordan Love signs, the price tag for Tua, people were outraged. Oh, I wouldn't give him $50 million a year. Well, after Love signs, that 5 might go to a 6, and it might be $60 million a year. And if you think I'm making that up, or if you think that's crazy, folks, sit back, watch, and see. Because the Packers want to pay Jordan Love because he's their guy. They're throwing their support behind him. They're saying, don't worry, we're going to pay him this week, and we're happy about it, and it's going to be okay. We're close on a deal. It's like they found a guy. They fell in love with him. They willingly paid him. Jacksonville, with Lawrence, with all the struggles he's had, they fell in love with him. They're willingly paying him. Dolphins and Tua, for all the stuff, check your pulse, Tua, you're the best, blah, blah, blah. Chris Grier, we love Tua. It's all bullshit because when it comes to paying him, they don't back up their words, which makes me think everything Mike McDaniel's ever said is bullshit. It makes me think everything Chris Grier has ever said is bullshit unless they pay this kid. And if they don't pay this kid, you can't take those two seriously anymore because they say one thing, but their actions are something else. So, again, it's not about whether you love Tua or you hate Tua. You don't want to pay him. You want to pay. It's not about that. I don't care where you stand. You can have your own personal opinion, but from an organizational standpoint, it makes there's no logic behind their actions. And that's, if you want to win Super Bowls and you want to win in this league, you need an organization that's a well-oiled machine, like a Swiss watch, and that there's logic behind, okay, we do A, we do B, we do C. We found our head coach, we got our quarterback, going to pay the quarterback, going to stop surrounding with weapons. This thing, the Dolphins, their logic doesn't make any sense if they don't pay this kid, or they drag their feet and it ends up costing them more, and we're going to fight over every nickel when we waste nickels and overpay guys who are garbage. Now we're going to count pennies with a quarterback, the most important position on the team. Again, don't have to love Tua. It's just the logic behind the organization's thought process that's very confusing here, and we'll see how it plays out. I don't know. And then, again, I don't want to get too far down the road on this, but if you do move on from next year, who's your quarterback next year? And you're going to have to part with a pick to trade up or part with a pick to trade for a veteran who's just maybe not very good. It's all avoidable by just paying this kid, giving Grier, McDaniel, and Tua 3 more years, even though the contract's going to be 5, give them 3 more years or so. And if they don't win, you fire them all. And if they win, then you'll be more than happy to pay them more money down the road. It's just common sense. That's how football works. This isn't complicated stuff, and the Dolphins have overcomplicated this. Now, training camp opens on Tuesday. I know some of you might be listening to this Tuesday morning. That's today. The first practice is until Wednesday. But with training camp opening here, I believe the Dolphins enter this training camp with 3 giant questions. It has to answer between now on Tuesday and the Week 1 game versus Jacksonville. Those 3 questions are this. They have to get answers for. Who will be the 2 starting guards on the offensive line, and can they play at an adequate level? Right guard, Robert Hunt's gone. Is it going to be Robert Jones? Is it going to be Liam Eichenberg? I don't know. Is it going to be Jack Driscoll? I don't know. But whichever one sort of wins the competition, can they play at an adequate level? That's that. And at left guard, Isaiah Wynn's already on PUP. He's always hurt. Is it going to be Wynn if he does come off PUP and whatever, it's Wynn? Is it going to be Liam Eichenberg there, or will it be Lester Cotton? Whoever wins that competition and starts, can they play at an adequate level? If it's Lester Cotton and if it's Robert Jones, call me skeptical. I'm sorry. I don't know if they're going to play at an adequate level. But who wins the 2 starting guard spots in the next month, and who's starting on the offensive line in Week 1 at right guard and left guard? Question number 1. Question number 2, with the Shaq Barrett news, who's going to be their edge rushers, and how they're going to get a pass rush the first 4, let's just say to 8 weeks of the year, when Jaylen Phillips is going to come back at some point, and Chubb hopefully by week 8 or 9 is hopefully back. I don't know. Where are they going to get the pass rush from? Who's going to be their edge rushers? Over the next month in camp, we'll have to see stuff from the rookies, see if they can make some plays. Whichever one of these vets that they sign, maybe they sign more than one. Are they going to be capable guys to sort of hold the fort until the help comes in Chubb and Jaylen Phillips? So that's question 2. Where's the pass rush coming from, and who the heck are the edge rushers going to be? And then question 3, is there going to be quarterback drama every day of training camp that will derail this season and be too big of a distraction to overcome? If Tua's agents at Athletes First tell the Dolphins tomorrow or tonight, on Monday evening or tomorrow or Wednesday, he's not going to practice until he gets a new deal, you're looking at, a month of Mike White running your first team reps. What do you do Week 1 versus Jacksonville? You throw in, then you turn everything over right back to Tua Tagovailoa, who didn't do any practice for a month. I mean, that makes that tough. Will there be quarterback drama, and will it be too big of a distraction? Because here's the deal. When the players start to meet with the media on Tuesday and Wednesday, I don't care if it's a rookie linebacker, if it's a special teams guy, if it's the long snapper, the punter, the wide receivers, they're all first question going to be asked, what's going on with Tua? What's going on with Tua? He's not here, Tua. How does that affect your job? So-and-so's not here, Tua. What's your, relationship with Mike White? That's going to be every question. That's going to be the distraction. So who's your two starting guards, and can they play at an adequate level, whoever wins those jobs? Where are you getting your pass rush from, and who the heck are the edge rushers going to be coming out of camp for the first month or two of the season? And will there be quarterback drama that's going to be a huge distraction and maybe too big of a distraction to overcome heading into the season? And I know at the start of the season, training camps tomorrow on Tuesday, fans want optimism, and they're thinking about playoffs and winning the AFC East and maybe a Super Bowl, and everyone has high hopes. But those are three legitimate questions right now facing the Dolphins as they enter into training camp the final week of July into August. Folks, I'm just keeping it real. I'm not going to blow smoke up your fanny. That is keeping it real. Because as I record this on Monday evening, the next 48 hours will be very interesting for the Dolphins in which edge rushers they signed. And we are officially now on Tua watch. And will he practice or won't he practice come Wednesday with the first training camp practice of the season? This is where the rubber meets the road. The offseason's over. We are now into training camp and the Jacksonville Jaguars week 1. And now everything is focused on getting the team ready for week 1 to play Jacksonville as training camp has begun. And it's going to be interesting here. Again, I would sign both of those guys if I could, and Yannick and Agba. If they sign one, I'm fine with either one. Doesn't matter which one they sign. No problem there. But I think they need to sign at least one, maybe two. And when it comes to Tua, we'll see. Look, once again, same agency as Jordan Love, not the same agent, and also not the same situation. I understand the Packers and Love are close. So Love saying, I'm not going to practice. He might miss one day. He might not miss any days. It might be done by the time most of you are listening to this. Who knows? Or it might be done by Wednesday, and he misses next to nothing. The Tua deal with Miami, fingers crossed something gets done this week at this point, even though I'm not going to give Chris Grier any credit for it. Fingers crossed it just gets done so it's behind us. But that's going to be an interesting situation to see if he and the same agency, Athletes First, tell Miami he's not going to practice, or if he does show up in practice and it's a totally different situation. We'll see, and we'll talk about that on the show probably tomorrow, because now that training camp's here and there's going to be news every day, and we'll probably be back with shows every day. Maybe not myself. You might see shows with Marissa. She's coming back in a week. You got Josh and Aaron. Myself and Eno do some shows. So we're going to have some shows here to cover you. We'll give you the rundown each day from practice, when they do practice, on days they practice, to keep you up to speed. Because I know most people work all day. You're not in social media. So you want to find out what's going on, what I missed today. We got you covered. So that's why I say wherever you listen to this podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Audible, Podbean, Podchaser, one of the other 100 platforms that we're on, hit that subscribe button now. Really, hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss an episode. So when a new show drops, it goes straight to your smart device, and you can listen and get the latest update from that day in practice. What I do when they practice, I'm not there. So I get the notes of the people who go. Omar Kelly, Alan Popar, Joe Shad, Travis Wingfield, all those people. I compile the notes, and I read you the notes. And so-and-so reported this, so-and-so reported. So you get a nice cross-section of who's reporting what and who's saying what. And it gives you a good feel because, again, smart people can view things differently. So it'll let you know this person viewed this practice this way, this person viewed it that way, this person viewed it this way. So it's not just coming from one person, one point of view. It gives you a good cross-section of what was the strengths, what was the good, what was the bad, what needs some work, what's looking really strong. And you'll get practice runs downs from our podcast here at DolphinsTalk.com better than you will from any other outlet. So make sure you're subscribed. Everyone have a great rest of your Monday night. Have a great Tuesday for listening on Tuesday. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, don't forget, we still must put an end to highway profanity.